Hey everybody, it's Party Elite. Welcome you back to another episode of our Planet Zoo franchise mode Let's Play. We're gonna dive right back into Elite Zoo South. There is, oh look at that. You can see it right off the bat in the thumbnail as well. Our little project, our little undertaking over here. But as I point that out, I should go back to what I was saying earlier, which is that there is, as there always is, a lot to accomplish today. I have got some excellent responses from all of y'all in the comments of the previous episode with regards to some of the ideas I was kind of throwing out there, with some of the thoughts I was pitching, I suppose you could say. And this episode, as you may have been able to tell by looking at like the length of it or what have you, this episode will be our first of hopefully many, if all goes well, time-lapse focused episodes. It's been in the back of my mind for a while. I talked about it last session with regards to how we might proceed to make more progress faster on various builds and whatnot. And again, I was thinking, we get management episodes from time to time, which are pure management. Why not do pure time-lapse episodes? And the response from all of y'all was largely, if not entirely, I'm like, I want to be fair about my assessment here, but I would say it was like a 95% approval rating on that pitch, though there was some excellent sort of counterpoints, or there were, I should say, some excellent counterpoints that were brought up as well. Counterpoints that I totally and wholeheartedly agree with, which is that, and I think I touched on this last session as well, it is nice to have the, it's nice to spend some time with the animals every episode. Like I said, again, last session as well, that is kind of what this game is about, is like spending some time with the animals as well, managing their needs, making sure the guests are happy and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely something I will do sparingly, the time-lapse only episodes, just like our management only episodes. I try to keep them, every once in a while with sort of like a desperate times call for desperate measures kind of an attitude. And I feel like as far as that goes, we're in a bit of a desperate times situation. Calling it desperate makes it sound a bit more of a problem or a troubling scenario than it actually is. But I feel like there's a lot of stuff that I want to get built, especially with these like beauty passes and stuff like that. And I keep feeling like we're falling a little behind. And it's not just me. I do see the comments with regards to that as well. And again, I want to make it very clear. I appreciate those kind of comments as well, because it lets me know where your head's at as we build this zoo together. Where are my hyenas over here? There we go. Beautiful. Ooh, floating hyenas. But sorry, letting myself get distracted over here. So the plan is, and I just want to sort of make clear, the plan is that every once in a while, just like every once in a while we do management episodes, every once in a while we're going to do these time-lapse only episodes, where the time-lapse will be longer than usual. It will hopefully allow us to get more done than usual, and it'll hopefully pick up the pace and also change things up a little bit. And for those of you who are concerned that we'll be spending less time with animals or anything like that, fear not, because that is an important part of the experience for me as well. Don't tell me. Are you actually? You are, aren't you? Oh, of course you are. That's an important part of the experience for me as well, so it's not like I want to forego it or forget it or leave it behind. But like I said, again, every once in a while. With that said, I feel like it's time to get started over here. We're going to go for an extra long time lapse. We're actually going to try and complete, and very picky with my word choice there. We're going to try and complete this section over here. Got a mostly positive response and some cautious optimism, which I welcome, because that's how I like to approach things as well. Cautious optimism, I guess, but also that glimmer of excitement. So, equally balanced, I guess, across the board there. But definitely got some good responses, good feedback that I'm going to be acting upon, and hopefully we'll be able to complete this today, and then we can move on next session, and we'll be able to add a new animal. I kind of like doing this beauty pass right now as well, because I do want to do a bit more research with regards to the next animal that I'm going to be adding. I don't think I mentioned which one it is just quite yet. I'll keep that close to the chest, but I have some research I still want to do, which is why doing a beauty pass today actually kind of works out with my overall scheme as well. I suppose my overall plans. Calling it scheme makes it sound rather nefarious. But let's go ahead and unpause for a split second over here so we can get the waterfall effects and whatnot going when we have it paused again. Yeah, that really just like the extra layers of foam, the white and whatnot, brings it all kind of together. But with that done, let's go ahead and dive in, folks. Not much else to touch on, I think. Yeah, it's time-lapse time. All right, folks, this is intense. Intense. Oh god, that wasn't even intentional that time. I'm gonna say it right off the bat. I'm very glad that this was a time lapse focused episode. It had a lot of effects and impacts that I wasn't really expecting. I was hoping for, I guess, but I wasn't really sure about them, I guess. But kind of just staying focused on one task. With an end goal in mind, sometimes it can lead to burnout really quickly. Like sitting down and doing the same thing for 2 hours can like really burn you out. And sometimes you can really get in the zone. And today I got in the zone and I got a lot done. I'm really happy that we went with this direction in terms of the structure of the episode. Because I was able to get a lot more done than I would have been able to had we just stuck with the regular time lapse length. With that said. With that said, this is a massive undertaking. We get very close to done. I would say we get like 95% there. The last 5% that I'm still kind of waiting on stems from some of the parts and pieces not really working exactly how I was hoping they would, and me needing to come up with some new solutions and not really being able to, because by the end of this time lapse, I do start feeling kind of like that I'm running on fumes and whatnot. And plus, honestly, this episode's probably releasing a little late, and I apologize for that. But that I had to kind of cut the time lapsing because it was this episode would never release if it just kept going until the space was done. But the first order of business over here is actually building some of these support structures, as we kind of discussed last session, and as many of you have pointed out in the comments as well. Rightfully so. Without support structures, it's kind of like it's all kind of floating there, and it's all very it's hard to tell. I feel this way as well. It's hard to tell, like, what is the space going to look like in the end. So with building the support structures, I feel like it does all kind of come together quite nicely. A lot of this kind of like ties the space together, in some cases quite literally, as I do eventually in just a moment's time start using ropes instead of just the wooden beams over here. Initially, I used the wooden beams to sort of pin everything to the ground or to the platforms. And I do still keep that because I like how that looks, especially with the kind of like the angle and the dark tones as well, kind of like using a variety of earthy tones to tie our very, quote unquote, artificial looking canopy over here to the ground. And you'll see some more of that as well as we go through. I try to bring in some more, like basically as you get closer to the ground level, I try to use more and more natural looking materials and colors and elements and whatnot. So there's an idea there, a concept which hopefully kind of translates and communicates and comes through. But anyway, yeah. So using a lot of these beams at first to like try and build a structure out of them. I like it to a degree, but eventually it becomes too much. There are fairly thick pieces. They are, no matter what color they are, they take a lot of like visual real estate, and so they start feeling noisy and claustrophobic and just kind of heavy. And I didn't want this space to feel heavy. I wanted it to feel kind of airy and light. And so I thought, why don't we play around with some of the rope options here? And there is actually this specific African what's it called, like set, I guess, rope that is available, which works really nicely. Now, when it came time to using the rope, though, I still wanted to try at least and make it all make sense. So having the again, like we kind of talked about this last session during the time lapse, but like having the fabric be pulled tight. You can do some very interesting things with fabric if you are able to use tension. I'm like thinking back to this one professor who taught us about the 2 or 3 key like elements you can use to build structural integrity. And I for the life of me, I can't remember the exact terminology, so I'm not going to go with it. But tension is one of them. Pulling things helps, like pulling things apart to apply to create that outward tension is a way of getting structural integrity. And so you can actually get things like fabric to make certain shapes by using said tension. So yeah, just trying to like get that going. So you'll see I still use some of these posts and these beams from place to place, but in other places I swap them out for rope. And though this isn't visually represented in the game, in my kind of headcanon personally, what I like additionally about the rope is that it can, in parts, have minimal slack. It has a bit more, I guess slack is maybe the wrong word, but it interacts with things like wind and whatnot in a more of a sort of fluid manner, or it can. Again, it all depends on how much you're pulling and whatnot. So in my head, I almost feel like, yeah, if there's like a soft breeze coming through or what have you, then to have all this kind of like overhead sway a little bit, depending on how much it's swaying, can either be absolutely terrifying or it can be quite serene. I'm obviously going for that serenity, not the fear for my guests. Though if they litter, then maybe they deserve a little bit of fear. But yeah, so quite a few experiments going on over here. I was not planning on using the rope at all, but that's kind of how it goes, right? That's kind of how in my experience, at least, that's the creative process. You execute something. Because we're not building things from complete scratch here, we're using predetermined pieces. We have to adapt and overcome as things evolve. And so you'll see I actually start getting rid of quite a few of these beams. And I was like, well, I quite like how much lighter and airier this looks. Now, I will put this out there. Please don't focus on the physics of the situation. I mean, the ropes look like they have a lot of slack, and there's this, that, and the other thing. It's just like I gotta work around at least a little bit of suspension of disbelief to make some of this stuff work. Otherwise, I'll just put everything in boxes. If everything has to be 100%, 1000% absolutely physically appropriate and accurate, or we'll just say everything's a hologram. There you go. It's like Coachella. But that aside, yeah, I spent a lot of time. It's funny. I was like, last session, I was like, yeah, okay, I'm done with the roof. Maybe I'll make some minor adjustments, and here we are. And a big chunk of this time lapse is actually about the roof. And we start. I quite like this, like using the waterfall rock structures on either flank over here, using that as a way to pull the fabric taut as well. But again, like I said, don't think about the physics of this space too much, because then it'll start. I'm sure it'll start falling apart. I'm no architect or physicist or structural engineer or any such thing. I'm using theories that I only vaguely comprehend and using them as fuel for my sometimes physics-free constructions. We definitely do some things that defy the laws of physics, but hey, that's it's all good. The good thing that not everything is a rigid body or soft body simulation in this game, because I feel like we'd have a lot more unhappy guests if that were the case. But yeah, so apart from the roof area, for those that are worried that I won't be doing anything else at all, we will be working on the platform level, and then the ground floor as well. In fact, we worked a little bit on the platform level. You can see I changed the flooring. I made it this rock pattern. I changed that again afterwards. I am using some references. I've got some, like I said, these absolutely wild kind of 5-star resorts I'm looking at that are in the Serengeti. And if you'd like to find some of these references as well, honestly, a Google search of Serengeti 5-star resort should probably get you there. Obviously, it took me time to get there, because when you don't know what search terms to use, because you're just kind of like shooting in the dark, you don't find the thing that you don't know you're looking for. You know what I mean? But now that I've found what I am looking for, it's like, okay, well, now I know how to find it again. So yeah, if you look up Serengeti Resort or Serengeti 5-star Resort, you'll be able to see some of the points of inspiration that I've got over here. But yeah, so using those points of inspiration, I saw a fair bit of, again, it's a great blend of like, I hate like using these terms because they're so, they come with a lens. I don't like the lens, but it was a blend of modern and traditional, and you can see my issue with the lens there, right? But anyway, to make the conversation easy, for lack of better terms, it was a blend of traditional and modern. So I try to like get that going here as well. Obviously, using things like fabric, which has been in use for millennia, and blending that with things like what you're going to see in just a moment, which is wood paneling and things like that. And then the further down we go, again, trying to get a bit less processed. There we go. That's the phrase I'm looking for. Because like over here, so for the platform level, I'm going with this wood paneling that looks very very manicured and very manufactured and very, again, for lack of a better word, modern. But then as we go down towards the ground level, I start using those breeze block pieces again, the same pieces that we used for the hyena space. Now, they're not my favorite. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't love the breeze block pieces. They're not exactly what I was hoping for, but what I was hoping for doesn't exist in the game. So again, like I was saying earlier, we got to adapt and overcome, right? And you can see me looking for you can see me looking for the pieces that I want, but realizing that I've tried this before, they don't exist. But we make do with the breeze block. I will be adjusting this at some point in the future. Now, I don't know if I alluded to it or if I just straight up said it at the beginning of this time lapse. Oh yeah, I did. I remember now. So we get 95% of the way there. There's another 5% left to go, and a part of that 5% is the end result of this bottom section over here. I had plans, I had a vision. The pieces weren't really there for it, but we'll find a way to execute it. One thing I'm trying to do though is on either sort of side, on like the outsides on either end, I want to have a reference to the fabric above, and it's kind of like curved shape, except using this stone, like this much more rigid material, this much more rigid piece. And you'll see I do make some adjustments to the outer level to do that. Man, there was a lot of like tedious work with this time lapse. I was like, where do those hours of my life go? And how was I still not able to like finish this? And it's like, right, there was a lot of like, you can see even over here, it's like just trying to make this curve look exactly how I want it to. I mean, obviously it looks so fast and quick in this time lapse, but my Lord, stuff took time. But yeah, so, using that curve there, making it feel kind of like exponential as opposed to linear, so to speak, to try and get that natural flowing fabric kind of a look. I don't know if it works perfectly. I don't know if I'm entirely sold on it. I'll be honest. I'm probably going to adjust that down the line, and you'll see why in just a moment's time. Capping off this central piece over here as well. Now, okay, so something that's got me really excited and also absolutely terrified is this announcement I'm seeing from Planet Zoo about billboards. So the reason why it's got me excited is because if I understand it correctly, we can do custom art for billboards and like import them into the game. Is that right? If I understand that right, then that's super exciting. But the part that terrifies me is if I get into doing that, I'm going to be sinking a lot of time into it. I've got some ideas. And I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know exactly how the feature works. Again, I did not play Planet Coaster, so maybe somebody can inform me, can illuminate me, and let me know what to expect. But I did a little bit of reading up on the actual Planet Zoo blog post, I guess it was, or forum post, or what have you. And it seems very compelling. And I've got some ideas, especially as it pertains to breaking up these repeating patterns and these repeating textures that many of you by now will know I loathe. And that is one of the things that I want to adjust actually moving forward. And I was like, that was another one of the things where I was like, okay, maybe I should wait and see what that offers us. What I'm thinking is, again, even though we have that 5% left over here, what I'm thinking is next session, we will go and add a new animal. I think I mentioned that before the time lapse, or maybe I mentioned it after the time lapse. It's all a blur now. But we will be adding a new animal next session is what I'm thinking. And then we will come back over here after that animal enclosure is done to cap this off and cap the train station by the gorillas off at the same time. Because I feel like they both have about 5 to 10, maybe 15% left each. And that way, when we get to our next pass, we'll finish 2 sections off and we can feel good about it, hopefully. Yeah. It is wild to think. I thought the extended time lapse today would allow me to complete this, but at this point in time, as I was laying this stuff out, I believe I was kind of looking over at the time, and I was like, oh no, oh wow, this stuff has taken a bit more time than I'd expected. But there is still more to do. I do seal this bottom section off over here, and I do start playing around a little bit with some sculptures as well in just a moment's time. Oh, yeah, right. But of course, the first thing I do here is toy around with adjusting the height of this entire thing. And part of me feels like, is it too high? Is it not high enough? There's something that needs adjusting over here. I'd rather not have to adjust it after having done all the ropes and supports and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. Something was... I don't know yet. I don't know. I got to figure it out. You can see I adjust it lower, and I'm like, I kind of like it lower, but then we end up getting some like clipping issues and things like that, like it's going through the ground and whatnot. I'm not exactly sure. I like how it looks overall, and again, I do hope some of y'all do as well. Some of y'all? What? I hope all of y'all do as well, obviously. But I don't know. You know, I'm the type to often be satisfied with my work, and then in like the rare occasion that I'm satisfied with my work, I can sometimes stay satisfied with my work, but more often than not, I'm satisfied with my work and then disappointed in it shortly after, or even more often, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I think that'll do. It's that's the struggle, I guess. Flipping this onto the other side over here. At this point, I was really feeling the time crunch. I was just like, oh, this episode's not going out in time, so let's quickly go ahead and get a little bit more done. I want to try and wrap some more stuff up over here, so let's go ahead and build this symmetrical element as I'm putting down the lion sculptures as well, and this is where another major problem starts rearing its ugly head, and that is, of course, the fact that you cannot put down floor pieces in sort of a sloped way. You can't angle them, you can't rotate them to go alongside the ramps and whatnot. So now I'm having to figure out an alternative solution for this, and this is one of those things that like really annoys me, I guess. It's like, why can't I rotate these pieces, these like wall pieces, in all directions? Why are they stuck to one? Anyway, it is what it is, but at the end of the day, I'm going to have to figure out how to make this area work, especially those corners. And that like line of thinking expanded and then became, well, maybe I need to change the whole breeze block situation entirely. Maybe this whole stepped curved look doesn't work. Maybe it needs to be revamped and revisited. And if it does, then that's fine. I have no issue with doing that. I just kind of like, it was a bit unfortunate because it was like making a lot of great progress, and all of a sudden I felt like I hit a brick wall basically, and I was like, okay, well now I might have to adjust some of this. And again, I don't mind doing it. I just wish I didn't have to. I wish I could just kind of like think what I have in mind, and it just happens on screen. That's the future of these games, isn't it? In like 2150. That's how we're going to be playing Planet Zoo, 20 or whatever version they're on at that time. Anyway, you can see me toying around a little bit with those breeze blocks, and you can see me toying around a little bit over here as well with a little bit of, I think, vegetation, because I do intend to do a bit of gardening back over here. But I quickly realized that I am running out of time. I'm looking over at the clock right now as well. It's like, okay, this episode is definitely late. I apologize for that, but I hope you understand, and I hope the wait was worth it. Folks, that is more or less it for the time-lapse. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, you know what to do. Let me know. If you don't like what you see, let me know that as well. I always like feedback. But for now, back to regular speed. All right, folks, that was quite the time-lapse, and I'm actually running real tight on time if I'm going to have a hope in releasing this video on time, so I have to keep this post-time-lapse conversation really, really brief. But I will say I'm definitely glad that we went with this time-lapse focused episode today. Really was able to get in the zone and get a fair bit done. We wouldn't be, oh god, we'd have another like 3 sessions of working in this area if we didn't do this kind of focused session today, which is kind of crazy to think about. I will say that, unfortunately, there are still a fair few things to work on over here. There are just some things that... This is where I start to, like... I wish there was an easier way to, like, customize pieces or, like, get in... Like, I know you can get modded pieces into the game, and I've been tempted in the past, actually, to do that. I think I've mentioned it, actually, in some episodes, where it's just, like... I wish there was the perfect piece that I could use over here to create like a nice arc. You saw me experimenting a little bit with like some different ways of laying this area out after I placed all these kind of panels down. I realized the shortcomings of my current approach. That's kind of what happens, and that's kind of why every once in a while it helps to step away and come back to a space. Overall, I'm fairly pleased with how the different materials and stuff are all coming together. Obviously, there are some things that, much like with the hyena enclosure, there's a lot of tiling that will need to be broken up. We're going to be playing around with some vegetation on this side on either end. So there's a lot of stuff that that will help tie all this space together. What I think is we are sort of at a spot where I think what I'll do is maybe next session really quickly I'll work on the gardening over here and over here, as it were. I was just kind of like running on fumes by the end of that time lapse, and I was like, my head is not in the right space to do something I'm already not super comfortable with, and just like something I'm not super familiar with, I guess. So we'll quickly cap that off maybe next session, and before we dive into adding in a new animal, though we will still have to come back over here and get some more work done. But I mean, we're familiar with that by now. I mean, let's not ever forget this the station over here and how long kind of that's been taking. Though hopefully with this new approach, it will be a little bit faster and a little bit smoother. There are a couple of tweaks and adjustments I want to make with regards to the canopies as well. I feel like there's the shape needs some adjusting, but I am quite pleased overall with how things are working, using kind of like rope as well as the wood to act as support structures and sort of tension, like sources of tension to pull the cloth taut and whatnot. But anyway, I'm sure I talked about all that and more during the time lapse. I just wanted to touch briefly on the fact that yes, there is still, unfortunately, some work to be done here. There's still some thinking for me to do with regards to how to really kind of seal these areas off and make it look good. I really wish you could put the flooring pieces down at an angle. Like, let me just let me put it down at an angle, or give me individual pieces that look exactly like this so that I can do that. I might have to go in with wood panels or something, but we'll figure it out. I'm not too afraid about that. I am quite pleased with how this space is looking overall, though again, there might be a couple of adjustments to come over here. I'd love to hear your thoughts, obviously. I'll leave them in the comments down below. I know many, or no, I would say some. It's always hard to pick a word that represents a number without having an actual number. But I would say some were a little skeptical about the space, especially when everything was still floating. Things are floating a little less now, so I'd love to hear opinions. Hopefully some of them have shifted. Hopefully all have shifted towards more positive, but of course I'm always open to the negative as well, to feedback and any suggestions for how we can make our spaces look better and more interesting and more compelling. And there are a couple of tweaks I just noticed I missed a couple spots here where we'll need to get some ropes and stuff in, but we'll tackle all that when we come through and cap this space off. But folks, this is actually where I'm gonna have to call this session, because if I don't do that, then we will most certainly. Honestly, I feel like this episode's going to be a little late already, so I do apologize if that's the case. But yeah, I think I'm going to have to call it over here. Let's use this magnificent sculpture over here as our thumbnail. Maybe. Oh yeah, there we go. That's look at that. Look at that pride. Get it? Because it's a line. All right, folks. Hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoyed this new format. If you did or if you did not, let me know down below, because again, I use that feedback to understand what folks would prefer and not prefer. With that said, as always, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Y'all keep us alive and running smoothly. And of course, a big old thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.